Hey everybody, this is David again. We're starting week 4, so I thought I would do another Illustrator tutorial or two here for you guys, just to kind of help us move along a little farther. Looking back at it, I probably would have done this one first before the pen tool, but since the way that we have the course structured here, it worked better to do the pen tool first. But so some of this stuff will be a little bit repetitive maybe, or think of it as a reminder. But anyway, what I'm going to talk about are the, first of all, it's called transform features in Illustrator. Transform, when we refer to that, talking about things like rotate something. So over here is the rotate tool, or to scale something, that's the scale tool. We can even skew things or, or slant things to the left or to the right. And all those things mean to transform something. So let me just show you how that works first. If we have any shape that you've drawn with any tool, if I want to rotate this thing, there's multiple ways to do it. So this confuses students a lot of times because it can be tricky, I understand, when you're learning something new when there's quite literally 5 ways to do it. And it's the same thing with Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. And I saw a few people talking about the difficulty of the program, but really, what you're learning here as much as anything is an interface. So think of it this way. This interface that we're looking at in Illustrator that has these panels over here on the right and the toolbox on the left and everything listed underneath window at the top and the edit menu and the object menu, all that stuff is pretty much repeated in Photoshop and in InDesign. So once you learn the interface in Illustrator, it's so much easier when you get over to the other programs too. Okay, so to rotate something, after you draw it, these buttons that you see around the shape that define the box, those are the buttons that allow you to scale. You see how I'm able to click on these things, and you've all probably figured that out. If you want to size your box up this way, you can click on the corner and drag it, but if you're not careful, you'll distort the shape like this. So if you started from a shape like that and you wanted to keep it proportional, before you drag, you click and you always hold your shift key down, and that lets me keep that shape proportional. Same thing happens when you mess with type that you place in Illustrator, because if I take my text tool and I type some text in here, let me get it large where you can see it. If I take my black pointer tool, I get the same bounding box around the text, and I can just as easily grab one of those corners and just really mess it up. And I call this a typographic felony because that's really what it is. So to scale up this text, or to transform it proportionally, always hold the shift key down. Okay, in the design community, in the profession as a whole, it's a really bad thing to ever distort text like that, because these people who design these fonts often spent their whole careers doing that. It's kind of the visual equivalent of deciding you don't like the color of a painting and just changing the color of it. This is the designer's work. It's designed to be this way. If you wanted a tall look to it, rather than skewing it, you need to go find a typeface that has a condensed family member, which will look taller and narrower like that. Okay, so to rotate, it's the same way. If you move your cursor kind of outside the corner of the box like that, it gives me a little rotation symbol, and I can rotate like that. Or you can go over here and use tools in the toolbox. So the scale tool, we were able to scale it up or down right here. You can also go to the scale menu and choose that tool and go out on the screen and drag with that the same way. But it's not really used for that. It's really used for more specific purposes. So if somebody said to you, I love your box, David, but I wish it was 15% larger. Well, then you can go to your scale tool, and any of these tools, you can double click on them. So if I double click this scale tool, this little menu pops up, and it lets me input exact amount. So if somebody said they wanted it 15% larger, I'll type in 115%, and I hit OK, and now my box is 15% larger. So it gives you real accurate ways of doing that. And same way with rotate. I can grab the rotate tool over here, and I can drag on the screen to rotate it. But that's not really what that's for either. It's if somebody says, let's rotate that logo like 12%. I can type in a 12 and I can rotate it 12%. So 12 degrees. So those are how the transform tools work. And you need to get used to that double clicking on a tool like that to type in an exact amount. because it gives you a lot of control over it. And what's fun, you know, if I want to check this out, if I had this shape that was a little narrower, whoops, like this, and I rotate it, let's say 20 degrees, well, I can hit a copy, I get the copy button, and it makes a duplicate that went 20 degrees. Now check this out. If I hold down my command key on the keyboard, or on PC, I believe it's control, and then I hit the D key, D as for dog, over and over again, it repeats my move. That's kind of fun. You know, I don't know when you would do that, but you know, there's a time and place for everything, right? It's called power duplicating. Okay, so that's how the rotate and scale tools work. Let me get the color palette out of the way, swatches palette out of the way, and let me talk to you a little bit about the transform menu here. If I draw a box, the transform menu here tells me how wide the box is, how tall it is, here, W and H, and it shows me where on the canvas the X and Y coordinates that it is from the upper left-hand corner of the canvas. Now this confuses people sometimes because, you know, what is the upper left-hand corner? So if you ever want to, and what's kind of nice about the transform menu too, if you get a shape and you want to make it a little wider, you can type in a width for it. If you want that box to be 2.35 inches wide, I can make it exactly 2.35 inches wide right there. So this is a handy menu to have open because it gives you nice specifics about whatever you've been working on. And you can move shapes around the page with this thing too. So this might be a little bit complicated, but let me just show you guys. If I bring my rulers up, show my rulers. Right now it shows that my 0 point for X is here, and my 0 point for Y, I don't know where it is in the same spot. And if I click in the upper, you see where these two rulers come together? There's a little box right there. You can click on that and you can bring this thing out here like this. Look at this. And that's where you tell it to set your 0 point. So if I want all my measurements to start from the upper left-hand corner, because that makes sense to me, there's my 0 coordinates. So if I come out here and grab my box and I type in 0 right here, and I put a 0 in Y, it sets it right perfectly in the upper left-hand corner. And that can be helpful, you know, if you were doing a flyer or a brochure and you had a photograph and you wanted to make sure it was right at the top of your page or perfectly in the corner. Sometimes it's not real accurate just to trust your mouse to drag and drop it over there like that. So, you know, I mean, I can real quickly take this box and make it 8.5 inches wide and set it at 0, 0, and it puts it right at the top, as long as I'm not too goofy with my mouse. Okay, see that? So it uses this transform menu to be really accurate. Okay, so that's our first little video. Now the next one, I'm going to go a little further with this, and I'm going to talk about the Align palette, and then the real fancy one today is called Pathfinder. So transforming objects, Align, and Pathfinder.